right. Hello. Hello. Welcome to another
Hi.
episode. And today we are welcoming my friend Cait from Library of Moonlight on Instagram to the podcast. Yay.
Thank you for
Also,
having
Cait,
me.
of course. Also, Cait, you're our first guest. Thank you so much for coming on. It's really
Yeah,
fun.
I'm happy to.
Yeah. Yeah, so we have a really fun podcast today. I have told Cait we're doing Valentine's Day pairings. So this is really fun. We just have random Valentine's Day associated things that are not really book related at all, and you pick a book to go with it. So, yeah, shall we get started?
I would love to.
Okay, perfect. So the first one I had on the list was Red Roses.
Yes,
Yes. So, did you have a pairing to go in mind with that one?
I do. Okay, so this
Okay.
one, red roses are kind of like the classic
Mhm.
Valentine's. So last year I read Not Another Love Song by Soto. And this one it's about two people in an orchestra. One plays the cello, one plays the violin. And I was like, what's more classic than two people playing in an orchestra? And it's kind of like a rivals to lovers situation, which for some reason, red roses to me that matches. So
Mm,
that would be my recommendation for Red Roses.
that's awesome. Yeah, I remember you reading about it and you just posted about it all the time, which, oh my gosh.
I truly, truly like that book. I rated it 5 stars. And you know how sometimes like you'll read a book and you're like, well, actually maybe no. 5 stars. Strong 5 stars on this one. I loved it so much.
That's incredible. Yeah, I need to read this book. I haven't read it yet. But
Yes, you do.
also, how often do you have like an orchestra romance?
Right? Which I love
Right?
because I used to play the
So
violin when I
unique.
was a kid. And so I was like, ugh. And cello's actually my favorite instrument, like
Yeah.
top tier instrument for me. So
Did you play the cello as well?
I wish. If I were going to go learn something as an adult, it would be the
Mhm.
cello, though.
That's fantastic. So cool. All right. So next up, I had Box of Chocolates. So you can, I know you had some struggle and you didn't get all of them, but yeah, so you can just like even think out loud, like, what is a box of chocolates
I was going to
in
say,
like a vibe or whatever?
if I hear box of chocolates, I always think that Forrest Gump quote. You never know what you're going to get. And this one is kind of unique, but for this one, I would say Dust Storm by Maggie,
Mm.
because I feel like, okay, this is like a cowboy romance. There is a single dad and then a woman who comes onto this ranch to try and make them money, but she's actually being punished by her company because she messed up this PR situation. And she's a total witch. Like she's so so like arrogant and she comes off as like a brat. But I thought that this book really like twisted that and turned it on his head. And shockingly, I ended up loving this character, even though in the beginning I was like, somebody smack her with her high heels.
Yes.
So I don't know. For me, like box of chocolates, you just don't know what you're gonna get. And for this one, I really didn't know what I was gonna get here. But I
Yeah.
ended up
So
loving it.
I've actually read that one too. And
Okay.
yeah, she has such a huge character arc that it's and
Yes.
character growth that it's like, yeah, you,
Well, and the thing about it too that I love is she absolutely grows as a character, but she also doesn't change that part of herself.
Mhm.
You really just
Mhm.
kind of come to understand like that's how she is.
Mhm.
Um and she honestly isn't coming from a place of like meanness. It's just
Mhm.
she's an extremely like blunt person. She's not good with kids, which like I don't love kids a lot. Like I love my children, but other people's kids, like I'm just like, no, I kind of get it. But I don't know. I thought that one was a really good one that like made me question, okay, wait, like is she actually mean or is she just different, you know?
Mhm. She kind of
Yeah.
like she has very firm boundaries and she like knows who she is as a person and like she has her issues and stuff, but yeah, she doesn't necessarily change fundamentally, but she learns how to exist in that world
Yeah,
and
exactly.
thrive and
Yeah.
thrive. So, yeah, I did really like that, which
I did
was
too. I
cuz
thought
yeah.
when I thought she did, you know, I think she also was very like learned how to react and be in that
Mhm.
world with the family that she was with and the people around
Mhm.
her. because it was a very different environment than one she
Mm-hmm.
had been in previously too.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I don't know. I love that book. I thought that it was very well done.
Yeah. And you saw that Maggie Gates, I think, got picked up by Berkeley or something like that.
Yeah, I think she just
Yeah.
announced it. Was it just today that she announced
I
it?
th- I think so. I think it was earlier today.
It's
So
so
like
exciting for her.
me
I love
too.
it.
I love
I need to read
it's
the rest of that
perfection.
series too because I thought that her writing was so good.
Mm-hmm. It's really cool. And I always love going with indie authors and like reading as they go on and like continue to improve and all of that stuff
Yeah.
because it's like you're along for the ride with them.
Yes, I love it.
It's I love it. All right, next up, I got heart-shaped balloons.
Heart-shaped balloons. Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah, I know, right? It's tricky.
I'm gonna have to think about this one for a second.
We can come back to it if you want.
Okay, let's come back to this one.
Okay, so then candles.
Okay, I have an amazing one for candles. This was actually the only one that I was like, immediately I knew which one I wanted. So
Yeah.
this one immediately made me think of Beyond the Aching Door by Victoria Meir. So this is a dark urban fantasy romance.
Mm-hmm.
There is a mysterious fae king. There is the main female character is like this. I don't even know if I want to say grumpy, but she's a little jaded, older FMC. She's kind of done
Mm-hmm.
with the world's crap, and she's always felt that there was like something more
Mm-hmm.
um, to life and to the world. And it just has like that beautiful lyrical writing. Like I would sit down to read this and like light all my candles, get the mood lighting going because it was just so atmospheric and beautifully written. I immediately thought of candles for that one.
That's so cool. Yeah. Again, that's another one I saw you posting and talking about a lot. I haven't read it yet, but that's the
It's
case with a lot of
honestly
books.
so good.
Oh, that's so cool. I always love a book with like an older FMC because
Yes,
everything is like teenagers or like young 20s. But
right.
what about the 30-year-old that or 40-year-old that's just like, "Oh my gosh, all these kids, they need guidance."
Yes, and they're like they've been through it. They've been in the
Mhm.
world. They're tired. They don't want to put up with anyone's crap. Like I love it.
Mhm. Yes. I'm just tired. All right. So that's awesome. Next up, I have champagne
Champagne. Okay.
or like bubbly wine and, all that kind of. But champagne's
So
fancier.
this one made me think of, let me just make sure I'm looking at the right title. Okay, so this one made me think of Worth the Rush by B.
Okay.
Borges. This one is about a rich girl. She is
Hmm.
sent by her father to go manage this ski resort, and she has to work with the guy who half owns the resort, and but she doesn't know he owns it yet. Like she just thinks
Hmm.
that he's like this annoying guy who works there. And so she's a little spoiled, she's a little rich. She's here again as kind of like almost kind of like a punishment, but also wants to prove herself and
Hmm.
make something of herself, make something that's her own. Um,
Hmm.
and so, yeah, the champagne just made me think of her because her personality, she is super bubbly, but she's not like a super happy type of bubbly. She's very like, she's got a little snark to her. She's a little bit
Hmm.
more down to earth. But yeah, just the whole kind of like the rich girl and then the guy who is definitely more down to earth. Like he worked his butt off to be able to like make his way in the world and to own half of this resort. It was just that, and that one truly is kind of like it's not exactly rivals to lovers, but again, it's like they immediately hit it off, but she will not admit it at all. And as soon as she figures out he works with her, she's like, no way. Absolutely not. Like, this is not happening. But he's just kind of like, yeah, we'll see.
That
It was so
honestly,
good.
your description of it makes me think of a Hallmark movie.
Yes. And it takes place kind of around the holidays, actually. And I read it, I think it came out in December. And I was lucky enough to get an arc of it. And so I read it like around the Thanksgiving time.
Hmm.
It was perfect. It's set in the winter. It's a snowy ski resort. Like it's got this amazing family that lives in this town. So the main character, the male main character, is part of this family that lives there. Um, and they go back way back generations there. So they're kind of like a staple in this town. And she's the new one in. It was so good. The humor, the banter was like top tier. It was so good. It
I love good banter.
was so good. I love banter too.
Especially when they're like, you know that they're attracted to each other, but they're like, no,
Their fighting
no,
is so hard. Yeah.
mm-hmm.
Ugh,
Yeah. Oh,
it was a good one. And that's book 2 in that series.
okay.
Which you don't have to read them. It's kind of like all romances.
Mm-hmm.
They're standalones, but
Mm-hmm.
there are characters, you know, from the first one, and you just kind of also get to see them living their happily ever after, and I love that.
Yeah, so it's more like interconnected standalones.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. All right, so then next we have a Valentine's Day themed manicure.
I don't think this is a spoiler, and if it is, it's an extremely small one.
Okay.
However, this immediately made me think of Reckless by Elsie Silver because
Yeah.
the setup of this one, I think most everybody knows by now. Like, there's a
Mm-hmm.
pregnancy, there's a baby. That's part of the whole story, and it happens
Mm-hmm.
very early on. So it's not that part isn't a spoiler.
Mm-hmm.
But this book is about a woman and a man. They get together. They have like a crazy one night, and then he's a rodeo dude, so he
Mm-hmm.
goes off to do the rodeo thing. And she finds out she's pregnant. And so, anyway, it's their story of dealing with this, coming back to each other, like finding their love story. But
That's
the
beautiful.
main female character named Winter, she is, for a while, she's a single mom and she's tired,
Mm-hmm.
she's exhausted, and she's very stubborn. She doesn't want to ask for help from anybody. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and finally, I think the best part of the story is that she realizes that just because you ask for help doesn't mean that you couldn't have done it on your own. It's okay to sometimes let yourself ask for help. But one of the things that the main male character, Theo, does for her is he like sends her off to get a manicure with the girls, and it's like relaxing, and he's taking care. It's so cute. He is
That's
really good at taking
adorable.
care of her. And I love that.
Oh.
And so the manicure immediately, I think of Winter because it was just the sweetest thing that he did for her.
Mm-hmm. Like, yeah, that's so sweet. And like, yeah, I know in general, kind of in our society, there's this whole thing about like not asking for help, not wanting to be a burden, yada yada. But it's
Yes,
like relationships are inconvenient.
right.
Like romantic friendship, all of that. It's like, yeah, you are a bit of a burden. Yeah, you're going to be inconvenient because that's kind of part of it. Um,
Right.
like
Well, like, I
you need
think
to ask for
also,
help and stuff like that.
exactly. She's also an eldest daughter. I think that
Hmm.
plays into it a little bit, which is probably why I relate to her so much.
Yeah.
Um, she's an eldest daughter, and like I said, she's very stubborn. She's extremely hardworking. Like, she's a doctor. I mean, this girl did not mess around in life.
Hmm.
But I agree. Like, and you sit and think, and you're like, okay, well, if anybody came to me and asked for help, I would immediately jump up and help them. And so I think
Hmm.
she really kind of sits back on that and is like, I would help somebody and I wouldn't be inconvenienced by that. So why am I not able also to ask
Hmm.
for help? I don't know. It was just beautiful. I loved it.
Oh, I love that. I've read the first two books in that series, but I haven't read that one. I knew about everything you said except for the little manicure
That's just like
micro-growth,
a tiny
but
little like
it's fine.
part.
Exactly.
But that series is Reckless is my favorite of that
Mhm.
series. But
Ooh.
actually, the first two would probably be my third and second favorites as well because they're so good.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, I do need to read more. Every time I do, I'm like, ooh, yes, and then I get distracted by the next shiny thing that's like
Right.
over
I
there.
totally get it.
Yeah. But yeah, that no, it's awesome. I love Elsie Silver's writing. I think she makes really strong, compelling, complex characters.
Yes.
So yeah, I'm not surprised she is able to do like the pregnancy trope well because I know
Yes.
that's a tricky one to do.
I agree. And I know that that's
Yeah.
definitely not for everyone.
No.
And I personally don't generally like it either, actually. But yeah,
Hmm.
she can make me like things I didn't think I would like.
I know, I feel the same way. It's like things that I'm like, I will never touch that. I think Elsie Silver could probably do it and I would enjoy.
I agree. She's
Please
queen.
more. Yeah, she is a queen. Okay, moving to the next one, we have chocolate lava cake. What book would you pair with a chocolate lava cake?
Okay. I don't think I can't even make the connection, but I'm just going to go with what first came to mind.
Good.
Um,
That's the whole point.
It just like you actually I can make the
Yeah.
connection right now. I just thought of it. After you're done reading this book, you will need to drown yourself in chocolate lava cake because of all of the emotions it will make you feel. um,
Yes. Okay.
and the book is Say You'll Remember Me by Abby Jimenez. This is her book that's coming out this April. I again somehow got an arc of this, got my little grubby hands on it. And I made the choice to read this on an airplane, which wouldn't recommend. Like, be home, be in your place.
Mhm.
I was laughing, I was crying, then I was laughing again. Like, Abby Jimenez, I is one of those authors that can make you feel literally every emotion and like one after the
Mhm.
other. Like, it just hits you, and she keeps rolling with it, and you're like,
Mhm.
okay, so that was like the big reveal. No, she has like 3 more after that in the book. And then you're sobbing again. And
Yeah.
so, I don't know, this book, like the humor was spot on, but then literally the emotions of it, it talks a little bit about grief. And one of the main topics is like Alzheimer's, and
Mhm.
dementia. One of the main characters is dealing with that in her family trauma that you have when stuff like this happens. It really hit hard, but then at the same time, like it doesn't feel completely traumatic because of the way that she writes her books, and the
Mhm.
love story in it is beautiful. And like I said, the humor, she can make me laugh like almost no other author. Like, she is so funny. I love her writing so much. And I was on this airplane and I was so lucky because they were handing out Oreos for snacks, and I was like, I need this cookie.
Luck.
So you will need a chocolate lava cake while you're reading this book.
I love that. That is a perfect connection. And that's such a good pairing, too. Because, yeah, it's just whatever vibe and feel with it. And who
Yep,
doesn't need a chocolate lava cake when you're laughing and crying hysterically on an airplane because of the
exactly.
book? All right. We have Hershey Kisses next.
Okay, this one's kind of hard for me too.
Hmm.
Um, okay, can we actually go back to the heart-shaped balloons?
Yes. Yes, of course. So, heart shaped
I'm gonna
balloons.
make
Let's
you
go there.
change this up.
Yeah.
Heart-shaped balloons, because this one makes me think of just like classic sweet
Hmm.
love story. And for this one, I would choose Done and Dusted by Lila Sage, because I love Lila Sage, and I think
Hmm.
that she's also one of those amazing writers who weaves in more into her love stories.
Hmm.
But I think Done and Dusted, the very first book in the Rebel Blue Ranch series, is mostly your classic, cute, sweet love story. It just, yeah, that one to me is so easy, so comforting to just like grab. I read it twice last year. um, so like it's just the most comforting, easy book to grab to read if you just want to sink into just like a cute love story. And I think there is a little bit of depth to it, especially with the main
Hmm.
character who's dealing with some trauma that she's been through, and she has ADHD, which represent. So it's very, very easy to relate to, especially for me. But as a whole, it's just like the
Hmm.
cutest love story, and I love it so much.
That's so cute. Yeah, I know. I know, like, that whole series has a bunch of, like, different kinds of rep in it. And I
Yes.
remember Lyla, I think, posting somewhere on the internet like a day or so ago being like, so like there's like disability rep and mental
Yes.
health issues and all this stuff and yada yada. It's like it's not just a romance. It's
Yeah. No,
all of this.
exactly. And I think
And
she also does it so well. Like, I love
yeah.
how she handles these different topics in the context of the
Mhm.
love story. Um,
Mhm.
she really makes you love her characters so much.
That's fun. That's awesome. Yeah, I always love when like I love just the sweet, simple, adorable romances. I love them, but I
Yeah.
also really like when there's a little bit of that next like bit of integration of more things.
Yeah.
Um because we're not just simple people who come in and out of relationships. We are like the accumulation of everything that's happened in our lives. There are so many people that have like neurodivergencies and complex family dynamics and like
Yes.
various levels of trauma and like familial obligations and stuff like that. It's so I think it's just important to see and
Yeah. No, I
realize like
completely
life
agree.
is messy.
Yes.
Yeah, life is messy.
Life
So
is
are
messy.
relationships. Yeah.
No, I completely agree with that. And again, Lyla Sage, I think that her writing is proof of how hard she's worked. She was also, she
Mhm.
started out as an indie. She got picked up by a trad publisher, and I think she's
Mhm.
killing it. Like I love everything she writes so far. I can't wait to read more of her books, and I think Done and Dusted was just like the perfect start for her.
That's awesome. Yeah, hasn't she put out like 4 books in the last year or something like that?
Book
Like,
4 in that series comes out in April as well,
yeah.
and it's worth it. I also got to read that one. It was so good.
Yes! You've gotten so many good arcs lately.
It really takes the sting away when I get rejected. Let me just tell you,
Yes.
because I've
Oh,
definitely been rejected quite a bit, and that's totally okay.
yep.
But I have
Mhm.
been very lucky also by some of these ones. Like actually, when I got the arc for Wild and Wrangled, I was in a work meeting and I happened to glance at my email, and I may have let out a little scream that scared my entire team. I apologize. I needed
Sorry,
to scream
guys.
that one out.
Yeah, sorry, guys. Just
It's
just
fine.
ignore. Continue on.
Pray I
Everything's
think
fine.
Marty. There's nothing wrong.
Everything's fine.
Everything was perfect.
That's hilarious. Man, yeah, I think I've definitely squealed when I get some like big arcs that I'm really excited for. It's an
Yeah,
exciting moment.
you gotta let it out. It's fine.
You've, I'm so honored.
Right? Exactly. I'm like, they picked me?
Yeah.
Are you
Yeah.
sure?
I love it. Okay. Next, did you want to go to Hershey Kiss again? Because we have one more after that one.
Okay, I think Hershey Kisses, I think I can do this one.
Okay. Let's go Hershey Kiss. What would you pair with that?
So let me go to I also have my list of books up so that I can make sure that I am getting authors and titles correct. Okay,
That's
so for
perfect.
Hershey's Kisses, this book made me think of Gilmore Girls.
Hmm.
And I love Gilmore Girls. And Gilmore Girls, when I'm watching it, I love to have a cute little treat. And that makes me think of
Hmm.
Hershey Kisses. So the book is Barefoot Lake by Kim Swizz. She's an indie author as well. This book is another like romance plus
Hmm.
other things. So the main
Hmm.
setup of this one is the main character goes back. Well, she's not going back anywhere. She goes to the town where her mom had settled as an adult, and her mom has passed recently. And so she
Hmm.
goes to her mom's cabin to kind of get everything in order, see what she's going to do with the place, and kind of
Hmm.
also just get back in touch with her mom a little bit and take a break from her own life as she's
Hmm.
just gotten out of an abusive relationship.
Hmm.
And then, of course, her neighbor. Oh, there's some in my. Sorry. Her neighbor is the grumpiest presenting
Yes.
man, but ends up being like the most sweet, thoughtful, caring person that came into her life right at the right time. And it's this beautiful little lakeside town where she ends up, and she just kind of finds more than she thought she would there. And I loved this book. Like I rated it 5 stars. I stand by that. It was so good.
That's so cute. I haven't heard of that book before, so I'm just like jotting down
This would
mentally
be
some.
perfect for like a fall read. Even the cover is
Ooh.
like autumn colors, and it takes place, I think, in the fall, like leading into the like Halloween, Thanksgiving type of season.
Hmm.
But it's just like that perfect New England autumn vibes. There's
Yes.
the funniest like side characters in this quirky little town that just make you laugh. Like literally, if you were like, give me a book with Gilmore Girls vibes, this is the one.
Ooh, that's perfect.
Yeah.
Because yeah, who doesn't like Gilmore Girls is like the rite of passage for autumn. You autumns, the leaves start changing, the temperature gets cooler. You watch Gilmore Girls.
Yes. Yes. And I love it. I'm basic. I watch it every year. So
So do I. At least season one.
at least,
Like
yeah, like at
that's
least some of it. Like I don't have
yeah.
time to watch the entire thing, but like I will pick it up
Same.
wherever I am, and you can just
Hmm.
jump back in. But this book has,
Hmm.
yeah, the same like vibes. And then yeah, the love story and the writing was so good. The humor was great.
That's fantastic. Yeah, that's just gotta love it. Gotta love small town vibes. There's so many quirky people.
Yes.
I live in a somewhat small town right now, and the people that are around are just so fun. Like,
Yeah.
it's all really wonderful people, but everyone is like their distinct personality,
I
which
love
is
it,
always
honestly.
exciting. All right. So, last but not least, we have Love Letter,
Okay.
or like a love note, or something like that.
Okay, listen, this one is also like kind of like a tenuous connection,
That's fair.
but
Fine.
I in my like immediately I just thought of like some of the books that last year just I loved, like personally, and
Mm-hmm.
like when you have a book and a series and an author and it feels like
Mm-hmm.
when you get to read from them, you're like reading a message from a friend.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my connection here. Love letter. It's like talking to your friend. It's a message from a friend. And for this one, I would say Juniper Hill by Deveny Perry. So this is actually book 2 in the Eden series. I love
Mm-hmm.
book 1 as well. Love it. But
Mm-hmm.
book 2, just I loved this book so much. This one is about a single mom. She's moving off on her own. She's struggling, of course, because she's got a baby. She's all on her own. She's going to go to a small town in Montana and work at this hotel. She's like escaping her life. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and she ends up renting an apartment from like the grumpiest. I love a grumpy sunshine, obviously,
Mm-hmm.
but it's this grumpy man who works as a chef at this hotel, and again, this family is like the foundation of this town. They are like everywhere. Like one of them runs the hotel. He's the chef. The other one runs the coffee shop. Like it's a big family, but it isn't necessarily found family, but it kind of feels like it because everybody who comes to this town kind of finds their way to this particular family. And it's
Mm-hmm.
just like one of those big families that you're like, yes, I would love that. They seem so good, so comforting. So, anyway, every time I read a Deveny Perry book, and especially this particular series, it feels like a love letter because I love it so much, and her writing hits it off for me every time. She's also one that her romances are top tier, but all of the other stuff is amazing as well. The writing, the characters, the side stories, the ties between books, like it's just so good. And that one's my favorite of that series.
That's awesome. Because I know you recommended Indigo Ridge for my 12 from 12, and
Yes.
I'm being hopeful, but I'm going to read it this month. So now I'm like even more excited because I have a feeling I'll probably just binge read the series because that happens sometimes.
Yes.
Um,
You can't
yeah,
stop with this
it's
series. Like
no.
I am notoriously bad with series. Like
Hmm.
you will always hear me say, "Oh, I've read the first book in that series." Um
Hmm.
but with Deveny Perry series, like I've actually read complete series and in a short amount of time too. Not like
Yeah.
I think I read one of her series every month for like the last 4 or 5 months of last year. Like,
Wow.
I would just go in and just dive into her series. They just move together so well. Like the flow between each books is so good, and the ties between them again interconnected standalones. But
Hmm.
yeah, I don't know. Her writing is just so good.
I'm even more excited to read her that book now. Like,
I hope
I
you love
just
it.
I can't wait. It's been too long since I've last read like just a pure romance book, and
Yeah,
I'm really really like craving that right now. Just something like wonderful.
and that one's really
So,
Indigo Ridge specifically is also
mhm,
amazing. Because the main characters are older again,
mhm.
and then that one has like a little element of suspense in it. Like it's a little bit suspenseful
Ooh.
too. There's like the chief of police in this town, and she has to solve a murder, and it's good.
Yeah. It's in the blurb, so this is a total
Not a spoiler,
non-spoiler,
yes,
but
not
it's
a spoiler.
like they find a body on the male MC's property,
Yes.
and she's the new sheriff of the town.
Yep.
So, yeah, it's also very awkward.
Right?
Like, right? Like you might have committed murder, but we hooked up one time.
Yeah, exactly. I love it. It's so good. And the suspense part of it just keeps you flying through those pages.
Yes. Okay. I love books that kind of cross genres too. So it's like,
Me too.
yeah, I'm all about it. All right. Well, that's everything that I had listed. Did you have anything that came up while you were thinking about stuff or no?
I
Totally fine
didn't,
if you didn't.
honestly. I just
That's
last year
fine.
truly all of these romance books and authors I
Hmm.
hope people check out because they're so good and I just love the writing of all of them. I think that kind of like what you said, I've been also reading tons and tons of indie authors and
Hmm.
that has been so fun. So I definitely brought a lot of indie authors to this list and I hope people check them out.
Yeah. Yeah, like absolutely. And a lot of these authors started indie. So even like Elsie Silver and Lyla
Yes.
Sage, they started indie before they were picked up. So indie authors are fantastic. They're they're amazing.
I agree.
I can't say anything else about it. Like, some of my favorites are all indie authors or originally indie as well. So
The
yeah.
best.
All right. Well, that's all the questions I had for you today. Thank you so much for joining us on the podcast.
Thank you so much
That
for
was
having me.
super
This was
fun.
so fun.
Of course. Of course.